So a couple of people in my comments were asking for advice on how not to be socially awkward. So here are my tips. I'm going to actually divide this into two parts, okay? So I'm going to talk first about how to be a good conversationalist, and then I'm going to talk second about how to read the room. So, how to be a good conversationalist. So, first off, we're going to talk about how to start a conversation. So, generally, you could start a conversation by like giving a compliment. Hey, I like your shoes. I like your bag. Oh, hey, where you get that? Asking someone where they got something is good because it's not just a yes or no question. They have to actually answer it with more than one word for the most part. It's also, it's goodwill to give compliments, but the compliment does have to be genuine, though. It can't just be like something you're saying just because you just want to start a conversation. It's going to be really obvious, and it's going to come across as awkward and weird and even disingenuous, like the person could think you're making fun of them. Another way you could start a conversation is comment on your surroundings. This honestly is the easiest way to do it. If something weird's going on in the corner, you can be like, oh, what's that about? I don't know. You can say, oh, this mural's really pretty, or it just really depends on where you are and what's going on, because that's an easy commonality that you have with the other person. You're both in the same room experiencing the same thing. Now, one caveat to this, don't do that thing where you like start complaining when you're commenting on your surroundings, because then that could come across really negative, especially if the other person doesn't agree with you. And that could be kind of awkward. For example, let's say if you're like at a wedding or a dinner or something, like don't say, oh, the food sucks, because if the person doesn't agree with you, yeah. When you're in a conversation with people, I know a big problem a lot of people have is like awkward silences, and they kind of don't know what to say. And the way to remedy that, be curious about people. When I talk to people in conversation, I'm very curious about them, and that's why I don't usually have awkward silences. So if they're telling me something about myself, about them, or about themselves, I'm curious, like, oh, okay, what was that like? How did you feel? This and this and that. Really listen. And also, don't focus just on what you're going to say next, because then it's like it takes you out of the moment. You sound awkward and stilted. It's kind of like if you created this script in your head and the other person's not following the script. Now you're screwed because you're like kind of thrown off. Just be in the moment, listen, and genuinely be interested and curious about other people. Most people think small talk about the weather is boring. I personally don't think it's boring because, I'm curious about, oh, you like cold? Oh, because you grew up in Vermont? Cool, what was that like? You see, we're getting into different topics. So now we've gone from talking about the weather to talking about where you grew up. So it's not what you're talking about, it's how you talk about it. And speaking of awkward silences, don't try to fill awkward silences, and don't talk just to talk. Like that's what makes an awkward silence awkward. Sometimes there are going to be pauses just because there's nothing to say, or because people are trying to think, or because the conversation just reached its natural end. Let it be, relax, let it go. If it's meant to be, you'll talk again soon. So that was how to be a good conversationalist. Now let's talk about how to read the room. Generally, of course, you want to stay away from controversial topics, especially stuff like politics, religion, sex or relationships, and money. The reason why you stay away from these topics is because it can cause division. It can bring up shame for people. These are very personal, intimate topics. These are topics that people often base their self-esteem upon and their identity upon. And so if you find that you disagree or something, it's just a landmine. Don't do it. Second, you want to match the energy of the person that you're talking to or of the room that you're in. So when you go into a room and the environment's quiet and somber, you're quiet and somber too. You're not all loud and rah, rah, rah. By matching the room, not only are you making sure that you don't look out of place, but you're also showing that you respect what's going on in the environment and what's going on with the people around you. And people will see that and appreciate that. They won't appreciate it if you're not like reading the room and adjusting your demeanor accordingly, because they're going to feel like, okay, I guess you're like not focused or interested in what's going on with me at all. You're just all about you. When it comes to reading the room, also, you want to listen to your intuition about how you sense that people feel about you, and just how you feel about the general environment in general. Now, this is a little bit tricky because I know some people, like, they have a thing where they kind of interpret social cues the wrong way. They kind of think they're like when they're not, kind of like the makeup artist did. But this is kind of hard to explain if you don't know how to read body language. But in general, if you feel someone is pulling away, if you feel someone's a little bit passive aggressive, you want to read that. You don't want to do a thing where you try to get them to be friendly to you, or you try to force a friendliness that's not there. If you sense that someone's kind of, you back off. It shows respect for yourself and their boundaries. Also, if you're thinking about doing something questionable, when in doubt, don't. Okay, so if you're thinking of bringing up something that's controversial, overstaying your welcome somewhere, not that you would want to overstay your welcome, but if you're not sure if you're overstaying your welcome, when in doubt about doing something, it's better that you hold off than you do it against your better judgment and then cross the line. And my last tip for you, which is one of the most, if not the most important tips, develop your empathy. A lot of the time when people are coming across as socially awkward, it's because they're not attuned to the other people around them, and they are displaying a lack of empathy because they are not putting themselves in the other person's shoes, and they're doing things that make the other person uncomfortable. If you develop your empathy, you'll be better able to put yourself in other people's shoes and be like, how would I be feeling in this moment? How would I want someone to treat me? How are they responding to how I'm treating them? Are they responding well? Are they feeling like they'd rather be left alone and not want to talk to me, or not want to talk to anyone in general? Develop your empathy, and the tact and social savviness will come. Let me know if you want more tips.